Welcome back to my retrospective review of one of Dragon Ball's ugly stepchildren, Dragon Ball GT. In this third part, I will be dissecting and reviewing the beloved Super Android 17 Saga, a story about how two Android 17s linked Hell and themselves together in order to create the most powerful foe the series has yet seen. And it's really not good. So prepare for that. But before I get into the new stuff this week, I wanted to touch on something I didn't last week, Piccolo's death. While I can appreciate his reasoning for wanting to off himself, sort of, I mean, I'm still not sure how the balls or why the balls are linked to him after he fused with Kame. Anyway, I would have liked if he had played a bigger role in that arc. 23 episodes and he featured once briefly, only to show up at the end in a dramatic, emotional send-off of sorts. That really landed flat for me. It didn't feel like something that was part of the story, but more like something that was tagged on at the end just because. That moment was leaning exclusively on Dragon Ball Z to carry the emotional resonance for that scene to work, and I think it deserves more. However, today I am not here to talk about the baby saga. This week I am tackling the Super Android 17 Saga, episodes 41 to 47. Let's do this. Episode 1 begins and there's a world championship. I'm excited. I always love a good Dragon Ball tournament, but this is actually filler and has nothing to do with the story that follows, so I'll glaze over it as quickly as I can. Goku is fighting in the kids division because Mr. Satan is feeling depressed after what happened to Boo in the last arc, and so he wishes for Pan to take his place by winning the tournament. But I spoke too soon. As Mr. Satan is being given a massage, one of the tournament officials explains that the 4 finalists have been determined and Pan has elected to withdraw from the competition as she has no interest in being the successor to Mr. Satan. We switch over to Goku as the children's division finals get underway. He's facing some unassuming kid called Magure. I don't know. However, before he gets a chance to begin, Vegeta barges in like a WWE wrestler demanding a fight with Goku. While Goku is distracted, Magure pushes Goku out and wins. Thrilling stuff. Following that epic display, the Adult Division's championship match begins. Epichiri versus Papaya Man. The fight begins and Papaya Man gives Epichiri a German suplex, after which he immediately gives up. Papaya Man is the victor and Goku tells him to remove his mask. It's Oob! Because Pan had pulled out, Mr. Satan now has to face off against Oob, who takes the fight pretty seriously and starts thrashing on Mr. Satan. Right as he's about to deal the finishing blow to Mr. Satan, Boo stops Oob right in his tracks. I kinda love that. It totally caught me off guard and Oob leaves himself wide open for Mr. Satan to land one punch knocking him out of bounds. Satan gets emotional believing that he won using his own abilities against Oob. That's a really sweet parting gift Majin Buu left for his grieving friend. This win gives Mr. Satan new life and vigor, encouraging him to remain the world's champion. All in all, this episode was pretty cute. Nice self-contained story that wraps everything up in a wholesome bow at the end. But now it's time for the main entree. Episode 2. Dr. Mew is still alive!
I have several questions.
Wait, no, he finds himself walking aimlessly in Hell when he runs into Dr. Gero. They decide to join forces in their efforts to bring an end to Son Goku. I have no idea how they're going to achieve this from Hell, but I'm sure we're going to find out. Hard cut to Goku's house as his friends and family are having a get-together over dinner. A knock on the door reveals an injured Trunks on the verge of collapse. Before fainting, he utters, Android 17. Investigating the situation, they notice a massive hole in the clouds outside. As they observe this, King Kai begins ringing in Goku's ear, informing him that for some reason the living world and otherworld have become stuck together. We later learn that this is due to an Android 17 in Hell linking with Android 17 in the living world. From the outset, it looks as though Android 17 in the living world is being controlled in some capacity either by the other android or Gero in Hell. That much is honestly still not understood, and I hope you don't miss King Kai because that's literally the last time we see him in this arc. Once this is all explained, 17 challenges Goku to come to Hell alone, because that would be the smart thing to do, in order to fight the people he sent there. Now, this arc frames it such that Goku is responsible for all the villains being placed in Hell. What follows is the release from Hell and pouring out onto Earth of all the villains. A news broadcast proceeds to show images of escaping villains, the vast majority of which Vegeta ended the lives of and not Goku. And just as a quick aside, when it comes to even major villains like Frieza and Cell, he might have defeated Frieza, but future Trunks sent him to Otherworld, and Cell was defeated by Gohan. Regardless of all of this, Goku accepts the challenge, blindly charging into the void alone, and while this is all happening, the forces of Earth defend it from the villains that have been released. Naturally, when Goku goes up to Hell to confront 17, Dr. Gero, and Dr. Mew, they give him the slip and proceed to Earth without him, trapping Goku in Hell. Who could have seen that coming? But that's not all. The episode comes to a close and it's revealed that Frieza and Cell remained in Hell to face off against Goku. Episode 3 kicks off as Goku begins going toe-to-toe with Frieza and Cell, not being intimidated in the slightest, and exploding while powering up? It's not really a fight or even taken seriously by Goku, who literally surfs on a Kienzan thrown by Frieza. Needless to say, in a quick and embarrassing fashion, Goku begins dismantling the two warriors. However, one small hiccup. They are immortal in hell? I'll address that later. Smash cut again to Earth as we see Vegeta confronted by Nappa. This I thought was a perfect time for some dialogue between the two Saiyans, giving Vegeta a chance to express all the changes he has undergone since their last parting. But nope, he's gone in literally an instant. But fret not, 17 is here to take his place instead. We then cut back to the fight in Hell as Cell successfully absorbs Goku. But Goku somehow crawls back out? Since that wasn't successful, Frieza and Cell, using a new technique, send him to Hell's basement, or something. A place beneath the current hell they dwell within, underneath the clouds. At this point, I honestly have no idea what's going on. Once in this strange place, Goku becomes part of a stew prepared by this old woman. But that's not all, unfortunately. In this strange place, she places Goku in a number of strange and uncomfortable scenarios. I don't know what her goal is here exactly, and her preventing him from moving I don't even know is necessary. Can Goku even get out of here? Is it possible to do so under his own power? I have honestly no idea. Because of this lack of information, the tension that I assume they are trying to achieve doesn't exist or have the chance to exist, as I have no idea what the parameters of this realm even are. What's possible here? We cut to Earth as Android 17 encounters Android 18, managing to put her under some sort of mind control. My assumption is the same mind control 17 is currently under himself. The fourth episode kicks off in a major way. Krillin attempts to reach 18 and 17 as all of this is going on, expressing his confusion as to why 17 is working for Jiro, thinking that he once resented him. Why is he working for him, he expresses. It seems to work for a moment, but quickly 17 snaps back under this evil influence, firing a blast straight through Krillin, leaving his body lifeless in the arms of his wife, Android 18. And man, does she lose it. Absolutely savaging and brutalizing her brother for what he's done, screaming to give Krillin back. It's honestly really powerful, raw stuff, and one of, if not the most powerful scenes I've ever seen from Android 18 since her introduction to the show. 17, however, is much more powerful than her, unfortunately, easily leaving her in a heap next to her husband before making his way to his doppelganger. Back in Hell, Frieza and Cell discover Goku after being frozen in ice by the old woman. Taking advantage of this, they charge their final blast to destroy the Saiyan. However, in the nick of time, Goku manages to break free from the ice. The ice can only keep those who are already dead frozen, apparently. And so he turns the tables on them using that very same ice trap. We switch back to Earth as the Android 17 from Hell is evenly matched against Vegeta, who for some reason doesn't go Super Saiyan. But not for long. The other 17 arrives and quickly begins to change things. They fuse. I don't like this idea personally. This story didn't really convince or sell me on this concept successfully, and I'm really not a fan of the design personally, but let's see how things pan out. They all begin rushing Super Android 17 because that's the smart thing to do in this situation, resulting in pretty much how you imagine it going down. Everyone getting decked. And while this is all happening, Goku is trying to figure out a way to get out of Hell. Apparently Yama can't do it as something outside of his control or our knowledge is preventing him. As this is said, it shows the Dragon Balls cracking. I have no idea what this means yet. Piccolo during this interrupts this line of thought, somehow, requesting to be placed in Hell. So, Yama can put Piccolo in Hell but not take Goku out? Seems convenient. Anyways, Piccolo has a plan. Episode 5. Okay, so Piccolo's plan is to connect the Earth with Otherworld the same way the two 17s did at the beginning, using his connection with Dende. Okay, first of all, he can communicate with Dende beyond the grave. Okay, fine. I mean, I thought you needed someone like King Kai to do that, but whatever. What I want to know is, why did Piccolo need to be brought to Hell in the first place? Couldn't he have communicated this to Goku and told him to make a connection with him and one of his sons earlier? Surely they are more similar than Piccolo and Dende are, and Piccolo ends up not even being able to do it until Goku helps him anyway. Whatever. Once the gateway is open, Goku uses this as an opportunity to leave and join the battle on Earth against Super Android 17. However, before he arrives, Vegeta is on the verge of being sent to Otherworld himself. That is, until Pan takes things into her own hands, holding Dr. Gero hostage with Gil, the real MVP. She demands that Super Android 17 stop in his tracks, and he does. He stops aiming at Vegeta and switches to Dr. Gero and Pan. This swerve is insanely bad. Dr. Mew begins laughing, facing the other doctor, practically twirling his mustache, explaining that while they were developing the android in Otherworld, off-screen might I add, he enhanced him such that he would only listen to his commands. And needless to say, this results in Gero's demise. Vegeta quickly regains his footing and begins blustering about how he doesn't need Kakarot Kakarot, how he's the real #1, etc. Only 2 seconds later be saved by Kakarot, bringing the episode to a close. We are now entering the final 2 episodes, and so begins the battle between Super Android 17 and Goku. Goku punches the android once and sends him literally to the other side of the planet. Android 17 proceeds to express how Goku is letting him down. Very cliche. At this point, I'm just waiting for Super Saiyan 4. Yet Goku persists in only using the regular Super Saiyan form. Also, as another quick aside, the sheer number of times Android 17 in this arc has pushed back his hair in the exact same way is more than the number of scenes Piccolo has had in this entire series so far. Just saying. Anyways, Goku gets right up into his face and fires a point-blank Kamehameha to zero effect. And so finally Super Saiyan 4 comes out and we can start taking things seriously. We then smash cut to possibly the last thing I expected. A short scene with Chi-Chi, Bulma, Videl, and Bra as they make plans to join the action too. I have no idea what's happening anymore. Anyways, the android is absorbing Goku's blast, and so naturally, because this is how the fight is written, Goku begins firing an enormous and unreasonable number of random ki blasts that are completely out of character for him. Also, Super Android 17 has this ability to absorb energy despite both Android 17 specifically not having that ability at all. And even if I were to ignore that, the fight is so boring. Because the android can absorb his ki attacks, when Goku learns this, he acts as if his hands are tied. Goku is not just a ki attack guy. The entire fight with Frieza on Namek, while it did have ki attacks incorporated, the vast majority was martial arts hand-to-hand close quarters combat. And another thing, to confirm that the android was absorbing the attacks, Goku fires his strongest blast at him. So, one of 2 things would happen in this instance. Either his assumption that he does in fact absorb his energy would be proven correct and he does absorb that energy, or he'd blow up the Earth because he's aiming downwards. Episode 7. The final episode kicks things off as the girls are making their way to the action for some reason. Goku manages to dodge the android's big attack and teleports behind him using all of his limbs to restrain him. In this moment, Goku begins to gather power and releases a giant burst of energy. As the dust clears, Goku is in his infant base form once again and the android is still alive. Apparently he raised his barrier or something. Super Android 17 begins charging the same blast he did earlier to finish off Goku, when out of nowhere Android 18 appears on the battlefield. She begins reprimanding him for sending Krillin to Otherworld, and Goku hears this news. She apparently survived the last attack at the hands of her brother because he was purposely avoiding her vital area that once housed a bomb placed there by the late Dr. Gero. However, it has, unbeknownst to Android 17, been removed by the dragon, and so Android 18 begins to bluff. While this is all going on, Dr. Mew begins calling 17 pathetic and a coward for not firing on Goku and 18 anyway, resulting in, you guessed it, Dr. Mew being blown up instead at the hands of 17. 18 uses this moment of distraction as an opportunity to unload a bombardment of ki attacks on the super android, resulting in him absorbing all of the energy she releases. Goku notices that when he absorbs the energy, he needs to have his body in a particular pose. What a strange design choice, leaving himself wide open for attack, and Goku does just that, flying right through him with a dragon fist and landing consecutive Kamehamehas, finishing the fight. Not a fan. The episode wraps up as they conclude that 17 must have known about the bomb and still missed intentionally because she was his sister. The girls arrive but are too late, and they take care of any and all loose ends with the Dragon Balls. Oh boy. Where do I begin? Okay, Dragon Ball GT's first arc was mindless adventure. Baby's arc was fighting mixed with adventure, each facet fighting and adventure serving a purpose in telling the story of the baby arc. In this Super Android 17 arc, it's the opposite of the first. Instead of mindless adventure, it's just mindless fighting. The arc is almost exclusively fighting, and the fights have no weight behind them. All of these villains have been defeated, get no dialogue, and are simply there to facilitate numbers to prevent and give trouble to Earth's forces, which we barely see. Additionally, where the last arc with Baby succeeded, the arc being just about him, this arc is not really about Android 17, consistently shifting focus from him to various other villains that ultimately have little or nothing to do with the main story and its climax. In other words, it doesn't build up to anything. At its core, this is a revenge story. Sort of. The 2 doctors getting their revenge on Goku. Yet the 2 doctors are eliminated by 17, who has no known motivation to us in the story. What does he want? If he wants what Dr. Mew wants, then why did he remove him entirely? I really didn't like this aspect of the story, and it only further emphasized that the people in charge of this only wanted to create excuses for them to fight and had nothing to say. Well, little to nothing to say. The scenes including Android 18 and Krillin were honestly very touching and hit all the right notes for me personally. The arc was at its best when she and her husband were on screen. Amazing, I think, how they played such a small role while being so important to the story. It's a bit of a waste in all honesty. Speaking of waste, the stuff that happens to Goku in Hell isn't compelling. It's all rather silly and takes up too much time within this already very short story. It keeps introducing new aspects of the Hell landscape that weren't privy to us prior. Therefore, they don't act as surprises, just conveniences to keep Goku locked down in there. Like Yema not being able to pull him out of there, or there being a basement to Hell at all, or Goku being able to melt just because he's alive. Stuff like that. And all of these new reveals don't really add anything to the story, they just facilitate ways to delay it, for Goku to proceed and for Cell and Frieza to finally meet their defeat in Hell. Speaking of Frieza and Cell, why is it that they are immortal in Hell? This makes no sense to me. During the end of Dragon Ball Z, in the final fight against Kid Buu, wasn't it stated to Vegeta that if he loses here while in the afterlife, he won't be able to come back? That he'll stop existing or something? Additionally, the entire arc hinges on this brainwashing of the androids angle, and yet it's never explained how this is even possible, or even how Dr. Gero and Dr. Mew found the supplies or parts necessary to create Android 17 in Hell. It's just glazed over as if it's some unimportant detail, yet the entire story is built upon it. My final criticism for this arc is that the fights were honestly really boring. Perhaps this was because they had no emotional weight for me, but I genuinely wasn't impressed by the action even on a surface level. Everything looks standard and bleh. And those are my thoughts on Dragon Ball GT's Super Android 17 Saga. Bleh. A saga that felt about as good as a rushed book report and felt slower and more monotonous than the vast majority of sagas, despite it only really being 6 episodes long if you don't include the filler episode at the beginning. Currently, GT is batting 1 for 3 so far, so not exactly a fantastic record, but who knows, maybe it can come away with a good result next week with its final arc, the Shadow Dragon Saga. But that'll do it for this week. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching.
Yo, Shiggy Diggy, what's up, my sizzle?
Oh my god.
Yo, don't blow your tits, sis. That's whack. You gotta chill yourself before you kill yourself.
This can't actually be real.